in the book of Hebrews, one of the temptations for the people was to go back to Judaism. Now, not Judaism that was fixated on Christ, but Judaism that was fixated on works. And that was a temptation. And many were attempting to run from the gospel and back to works. Works seems easier. It's a lot easier to explain and quite frankly can be a lot more rewarding because you can pat yourself on the shoulder and say, look at how good I'm doing. And part of what's going on in the book of Hebrews is they're being warned not to do that. Don't go back to that. Now, the only way they would go back to that is if they were never saved in the first place. And there were many, obviously, that were in that situation. It says, for if we go on sinning deliberately after receiving the knowledge of truth, there is no longer remains a sacrifice for sin, but a fearful expectation of judgment and a fury of fire that will consume the adversaries. Anyone who has set aside the law of Moses dies without mercy. How much worse punishment do you think will be deserved by the one who has spurned the Son of God and profaned the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified and has outraged the Spirit of grace? What he's saying is this: be careful. Don't reject the gospel. And this would be a warning to you as well. Don't reject the gospel. The only way you're going to do that is if you haven't embraced the gospel in the first place. But maybe you've been churched and you've experienced a lot of things inside the church, and now you decide, you know what, I'm done with that. I'm going to try something else. He says, don't do that. Don't reject the gospel. Don't profane the blood of Jesus Christ. Don't look for another sacrifice. Don't look for another way in. That could be a deadly move on your part. Believers, we would never do that, but we're tempted to do that at times. But he's saying, don't do that. Don't run the direction that is opposite of the cross. Run to the cross, because the cross is the only place that you can be reconciled to God.